What's going on, people? We're back again with another show, the Arsenal Roundabout, I like to call it, but this one's a little bit special. Big up to Tom Canton, to Magic Mike, to Lee Judges, and big up to all of you for watching in the chat. The reason for this stream, before I properly introduce everybody, is before the season kicked off, this happened.
Just quickly, Tom, if you had the choice now, Maddison 50 million or Havertz 65, which one would you can pick either. Which one would you go for?
The reason why I pick Havertz is because Arteta has picked him. And I have got so much encouragement from the business that we have done to trust that decision. And if Arteta thinks that Maddison for 50 million is a better deal than Havertz for 65, we would have signed Maddison. Would anyone like to do a little friendly bet on who gets more goal contributions next season, Havertz or Maddison?
I'll go Maddison.
Yeah.
Would anyone like to do a little bet with me on that? I'm willing to take it up. If you're that confident that Maddison is the better signing, take me up on this bet.
There we go. It happened. A £50 bet. You saw it there on Twitter. I can't get out of it. I said it on Twitter. A £50 bet to a charity of your choice, Tom Canton. And I must say, Christmas time, I got a little bit cocky here. I was thinking, oh, there we go. This £50 that Tom's going to have to pay up. I think it was about 8-0 at one stage.
It was, yeah.
And I think I remember you texting me going, just to let you know, I've given up. You're going to do this. It's no problem now. But, mate, it turned it around. And King Kai, I must say, James Maddison got a big injury, which didn't really help him. However, when he come back from that injury, he's pretty poor, man. I can't lie. But King Kai has cost me £50. So I thought what we'd do today, because I'm a man of my word, is we would invite a couple of good friends on. Big up to all of the chat. Make sure you do me a favor and following all these guys and hit the like button and the subscribe button. We're so close to 20k people. We hit 19 overnight. So let's make sure we can get to 20. But yeah, £50, Mr. Tom Canton. You've kind of decided that you would like to dedicate this, or me to dedicate this, to a charity that I know that we are very, very close to, both you and I, and and Judges, to be fair, but also Mike is. So I think it's only fair if I don't steal the thunder and hand it over to Mike to give us a little bit of a rundown on what this charity means to everybody in the Arsenal community, because I know it is absolutely huge, and the work you do is fantastic, man. So don't go anywhere, people. Me and Tom will have more of a chat about this, and I'll definitely get Tom's thoughts on it. But Mike, over to you, man, because this is massively important. This is the important part. So over to you, man.
Well, I appreciate that. It's good to see you guys all again. Back across the pond now, but I had a good visit with you guys while I was over for most of the month of May. But much more important than that, last year, Dan, I don't know if you remember, you and I made one of these £50 bets, and I lost mine because of an injury, just like you are claiming you lost yours because of an injury. I think it was Eddie and Gabby Jesus, a certain number of goal contributions, and then of course they both went missing, and you won. But Gooners versus Cancer is a charity that has been in existence for 7 years now. We've raised, I'll convert it to pounds. We've raised over £110,000 for various cancer charities, most of which were the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We have run auctions. We've done raffles. We've done FIFA tournaments. We've had live events, which both we've run, Tom's run. We've done the tours here in the States. It's just a variety of different ways to we've done bets where we are happy to take £50 from people like Dan Potts, who are clearly rooting for people who play for Spurs more than they're rooting for Arsenal. We're always happy for that money to go towards cancer research. So yeah, GoonersVCancer.com is the website. We've got our new website up, and we are branching into more than just the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society starting this year. Now that we're a full registered charity here in the U.S., you can donate from anywhere in the world. get any tax benefits that your local laws allow. Talk to your accountants and CPAs about that. But and the money will be going to multiple different kind of cancer charities over time, and we hope to eventually grow into football versus cancer. And Dan, you can be a huge help with that, with your contacts with other football clubs and people who want to be charity minded. But we'll talk about that when things come. But we're always happy to be the target of people's fundraising, and the three of you have been massively instrumental in that. So thank you.
Nah, come on, man. This is the first thing I thought of when myself and Tom had this charity bet. You were the first person that I thought of, because I know that it's a great, great charity and the hard work that goes into it. And some people believe or don't understand, I suppose, the amount of work that does go into it. And I've seen it firsthand, Mike. So you should really congratulate yourself for that, because you do work hard on it, man. And fair play to you. And the contacts you have are unbelievable. So yeah, it's
and a lot of people's hard work goes into it. I mean, it is a lot of work for me, because I kind of coordinate things. But I mean, I couldn't do what we're doing without the help of you and Tom and Lee and just, I mean, I could name people, but it would take the rest of the podcast who take it upon themselves to raise funds for this. So it's one of those things that reminds you, and I say this all the time, reminds you that Arsenal Football Club and our fan base are more than just game day wins and draws and losses. I know those are the things that matter the most in the moment, but we really do have a community and an unbelievable group of people who follow this football team and do great things for great charities. So whenever things are bad for Arsenal, don't forget you're part of something much bigger.
100%, man. And I know for a fact there'll be more 24-hour crazy Mike with matchsticks on his eyes trying to keep him open when he does his 24-hour pod along. So make sure you do go and support this, guys. That's obviously where the money that I lost this bet is going to be going. So once that is done and confirmed, I will send proof to all of you so that you know it is done, so you have receipt of that. So big up to you, Mike. Tom, coming in, let's get over and done with. I thought it was a crazy thing to bet, man. I can't lie. And let me ask you, when you did it, did you think I was crazy for going for it?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Because look, there was no doubt that James Maddison was a player that I expected to score goals. I think if there would have been odds of the bet, I would have been the underdog. The expectations surrounding Havertz and all the hype surrounding Maddison's transfer. I think it was being talked about at the time as one of the signings of the summer, for Spurs. And it looked at the beginning of the campaign that was going to turn out to be true as well, until that injury happened. And to be honest, that was certainly part of the reason why I was open to make that bet, because the injury record of Maddison is so well storied that there was always a good chance that he was going to miss a significant portion of the season. And I think that with Havertz, the one thing, despite his form not being reliable, his attendance has been, very reliable over the course of the last few years. So not only did we see a player that was going to play regularly, and Arteta clearly had a lot of faith in, but gradually, as he, continued to build and gain confidence and learn the system, and then finally move into that centre-forward position, which I'd been, calling for a very long time, because that is where he plays best. He's done some decent contributions in midfield, but his best contributions have always been when he's in and around the box. So, yeah, but to be honest, I'm still surprised that it ended as far apart as it did. I thought it was going to be much, much tighter than it was.
Yeah, Lee, let's bring you in, man, because when I did it, you said to me, oh, that's a bet. And to be fair to you, bro, like you and I share content pretty much daily, and you has always been a fan of Kai Havertz. And I think you respected James Maddison as a player, but I always thought that you were like, do you know what? I've got faith that he can catch Maddison up, Lee. You were saying to me quite a bit. You had the faith in him.
Yeah, I did. And one of the reasons was, ability-wise, I'm a big fan of James Maddison until he signed for Spurs. That's gone now. But before that, I was. But he always had a bit of a poor injury record. And I was speaking to a couple of Leicester fans, and they said, he picked up an injury. Remember when they was really nailed on for top 4 one season? He was playing really, really well. And then he got injured, and he never come back the same, and they struggled. They ended up coming 5th, if you remember rightly. And injuries play a part in when you make signings. I think, durability is something there. I have to say that the durability of Havertz has been extraordinary. Not just not getting injured, the way he races around the pitch, work rate and everything, and recovery levels were very, very good. But I you know, don't want to, sort of blow me and Tom's own trumpet here. Really, like we see something in the Havertz, and I've seen something in Havertz from day one. I thought that, if I've got a criticism of Arteta, it really is that he see it in the opening game in the Community Shield, and he never went back to it until January time. I thought he played really well against Man City in the Community Shield. And Arsenal played well that day, if you remember rightly. But I think that since he's gone up front, he's been brilliant. And I have to say he's one of my favourite players now. I have to say. I like one thing about him that I do like, and I know probably you shouldn't like that, is his shithousery. I love it. I love all of that. The dark arts of the game. He's right up there on the top of that. But he does it very, very well, where he doesn't do enough to get himself into real trouble, but enough to just let himself know. And he puts himself about. And I remember the game that I was more impressed with him than many games, and people will probably laugh at me, was Newcastle away, when I don't think that we was at our best, but he really battled hard that day and put himself about. And I thought, yeah, you'll do for me. And that was really the game where I went to me like, yeah, I'm a big fan of his.
The one where he should have gotten a red card, you mean?
Well, it was borderline. It was borderline. I don't think it was.
I agree.
But listen, they were putting it about. They were being a little bit nasty and all that. And the Kai Havertz, when I'm not having none of it. I like that. I like that in a player. He stands up to it. And there's been many a times people have put it on him this season, and he just dusts himself down and gets on with it. And he's got some important goals for us this season, and I'm really pleased for him, and I hope he does well in the Euros.
Well, listen, there's a lot of people tipping Germany to do well in the Euros. To be fair, if you look at some of the players they've got, it's actually pretty frightening going forward. To be fair, so yeah, watch this space. Big up to Max, by the way. Big up, bro. Has become a YouTube member on the channel. If you do want to become a member of the channel, then all you got to do is hit like, subscribe, and join. 3 buttons. If you would like to support the channel. So thank you so much for that. Mike, let's come to you, my bro, because when I made this bet, I think there was a lot of people that were kind of like secretly thinking that I was secretly hoping that James Maddison would have this fantastic season and it would get like 15 goals, 15 assists. That's just not the case. The reason I made this bet is because I really didn't feel like James Maddison was going to have a shocking season. And let's be real, he didn't. Let's be real. He's actually a very good player. I still stand by it. I think he's a top talent. And I think he's too good for Spurs. But there we go. He's there now. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Before a ball was kicked, Havertz was questioned. Eyebrows were raised. James Maddison was the signing for 40 million. Everyone said was a wise bit of business. A good piece of business that perhaps Arsenal should have done instead of Kai Havertz. Looking at it now, like not even 12 months on, say 9 months on, would you rather have Kai Havertz than James Maddison right now?
Oh my God, I'd rather have Kai Havertz by a significant degree than James Maddison right now. I think this season, actually, when you look back at it, with those two players specifically, was as predictable as you possibly could have thought it was. And the reason for that is we all knew James Maddison is a very, very talented player who struggles with injuries and was going to a team where it doesn't matter what you are, you just become worse than you were before, unless your name is Harry Kane. But we all knew Kai Havertz, if you've been watching him since he was in Germany, was quite a player, that he was just a phenomenal player at a very early age, had these skills, had these capabilities, and went to a place where good players go to die. Depending on your psyche and the type of player you are and how you deal with the mental part of football, going to Chelsea, we've seen it with Mudryk, we've seen it with a lot of players other than Cole Palmer, you're going to potentially be affected and your play is going to be affected. And it takes a while to get out of that. And so if we thought that Kai Havertz would eventually get back to what we knew he could be when he played for Leverkusen, it was going to take some time. He would have a slow start. and hope if he was nurtured in the right environment, was allowed to play through his struggles, would regain his form. And we knew that Maddison would kind of come out strong and ultimately succumb to the injury bug that he's had for the vast majority of his career. So I mean, I don't think anybody should be surprised by how this season went, and the fact that it kind of seemed tilted in one direction at first and then went the other way. But I think where we kick on from here is that Kai Havertz, you could see as the season went on, his confidence. That was the thing to me. He came here as a shell of the player that he was. He started off very weak, and the fans and a lot of YouTubers and most of the people who rushed to judgment on things were on his back, and rightfully so, based on his form at the time. And ultimately the fact that he turned it around and got confident, you could see as the season went on, in just the way he played, not just the results, not just the goal contributions, but his style, his body language. In that Sheffield United away match, when he took that pass, I think it was from Jorginho, but it just died on his foot and went in for, and I forget who he centered to for a goal after that, but it was the one goal we scored in the second half. That moment right there just said, this guy is playing with confidence now. This is the Kai Havertz that's the most he could be. So there's no reason why that shouldn't continue into next season, and Kai Havertz shouldn't be tipped for an unbelievable year next year. So between the two, I would take Havertz all day long now.
Well, Tom, that's a nice segue for me into what happens next season with Kai Havertz, right? Because I think that there's a lot of Arsenal fans want a number 9. I also think there's a lot of Arsenal fans that would like some backup for Saka. Does Kai Havertz start in this side next season, or is he going to be used as more of a rotation player if those players come in, bro?
I think he will be Arsenal's starting striker next season, at least at the start of it. The reality is that Arsenal would love to sign the likes of Alexander Isak. Arteta is a huge fan of the guy. Reality is that transfer is all but impossible for Arsenal to complete, because Newcastle have absolutely no interest in selling, despite rumours of a need to sell that is nowhere near as real as what some people make it out to be. He's under a long-term contract already. There's indications that he'd be open to signing a new deal with them as well. He's happy there. And Arsenal would probably need him to push for a move for it to happen. And even then, it's still going to cost you upwards of potentially £100 million to do it. Arsenal aren't in the market this summer for a £100 million player. That may frustrate people. That may annoy people considering the season we've just had. But the reality is that Isak is really the only £100 million plus player that Arsenal would be out there to potentially sign if he was available. The strikers that Arsenal are looking at are of a much younger profile. The leading candidate at the moment is Benjamin Sesko of RB Leipzig, who is a very good player. At 20 years of age, he's established himself in the Leipzig side. After just one season, he still managed to score 14 goals, despite spending half the season mainly on the bench. And that's in the same number of league goals, actually one more than Havertz managed in the Bundesliga this season compared to the Premier League with Havertz. So he's a very talented kid. And that's why I say I expect Havertz to be the starting striker at the start of next season. But if we were to sign Sesko, it wouldn't necessarily surprise me if by the end of the season, just like with Havertz, that our starting striker changes, depending on his form, if indeed he is signed. There's other potential, obviously, options as well. Victor Gyökeres is another, although he, again, is on more of the expensive ends. That makes that slightly trickier. But I think what Havertz has done, and that, again, it kind of leans into the impressive season that he's had, is that prior to, let's say January window, I think Arsenal and their do were very much looking at the summer as we're going to have to spend the majority of our transfer kitty in 2024 on a striker. And Havertz's form has entirely overhauled that plan. And so now, as you talk about the likes of Bukayo Saka needing, depth and competition, us needing another central midfielder, which I look at as actually the most important signing that we can make this summer, another defender, the potential to sign another goalkeeper if Ramsdale leaves. I think that the majority of our investment potentially could go on Sesko, for example, who has a £55.6 million release clause, 65 million euros. I think that we will potentially have the scope, therefore, to go in and get, another winger, a central midfielder, another defender. So it will frustrate some fans. I get it, because they want us to see her go and get another Declan Rice. But the landscape of the market and the landscape of Arsenal's financial situation is that isn't really on the table this summer.
It's interesting, Lee, isn't it? Because this comes in from Brian. He says, I think the chance of Arsenal getting a big name striker is low. Havertz will be the striker next season. He is Arteta's guy. Do you think, from what Tom said, Lee, like, for me, I would love us to go all out for Alexander Isak. He's the one that I want. I think he's the one most people want. But it looks like that's not going to happen for a number of reasons. Newcastle not selling him or wanting to sell him being one of them. And actually the fact that he's probably going to be between 100 and 150 million or something mad like that if he was to go out the door. Do you think a Benjamin Sesko coming in is enough, or a Victor Gyökeres is another guy we've spoken about, Sporting Lisbon striker? Do you think that could be enough to feel like us with excitement to get across the line against Man City next season, bro?
I feel that we do need a striker, particularly at home, because I think we miss too many chances at home. If you look at the way we play, and even like the game against Everton, we should have been 2 or 3 up before they score, and there's been other times. I don't know. I think Isak would be the perfect answer, because not only can he play down the middle, he can play wide, and I think that's what they're looking. That's what they're looking for. I don't see Arsenal signing an out-and-out striker. If you look at it, none of those players are all out and out wingers or whatever, that they can invert, they can change. Saka could play down the middle if you want, behind the striker. He can play wide left. Martinelli, I thought, was very interesting that they decided to play him wide right to give him see what he looked like, because he could eventually be a player that could back up Saka and then still play on the left-hand side. So I feel it'd be someone that can play like left-hand side or right-hand side as well as a striker. And I do think, and I agree with Tommy, I do think because of the form of Havertz, I don't think it's now become a priority. If you really look at it, since January, since he's been up there, we've scored more goals than anybody else. We've created a lot more goals. So I think that's what they look to do. I do think that they go big on a midfield player. I don't know who that'll be, but I think they will go big to add to that and strengthen the squad. I think that the striker coming in now, I believe, will probably be a replacement for Eddie and an upgrade on Eddie more than a starter. And I've got to be really honest, it would be a little bit unfair if you look at Havertz from January onwards and say, right, okay, we're going to go and drop you now and get somebody else in. It'd be a bit harsh to do that, because, don't get me wrong, he's done it in the past, Mikel, so I wouldn't put it beyond him. But I think he's put a lot of time and a lot of investment into Kai Havertz. And I do think the one game that he didn't play up there was Villa. And, Jesus has been fantastic for us, but it didn't work. So I think that not only is he going to start, I think he's key. I think he's a key player to the way we play, the way all of it, the puzzle fits together. I think he's very, very key to that. So listen, it's going to be really interesting what they do on that side there. I think that they're going to go for a wide left player more than a centre forward that can play in both positions. There is a certain player up north that fits that bill, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Even though
we're going to come to that. We're going to come to that because I want to get all your opinions on that.
No.
We're going to come to that.
What happens to Jesus then in this situation? Let's say we bring in a guy like Sesko to kind of groom him for the ultimate number 9 position. We have Havertz starting up top. Does Gabby does he get sold, or does he move out right as?
Yeah, man.
I think he does. Yeah.
Right winger back up to Saka, because I think
he becomes Saka's backup then. Right?
Yeah, that's what I would do. Whether he wants to be Saka's backup, I don't know. I think he wants to play, but I think we're in a situation which is probably a compliment to Arsenal and Arteta, is that we've actually grown Zinchenko and Jesus potentially already in our first team, and I think we've done that quicker than I think a lot of us thought. Zinchenko is a lot of rumours that he might actually go. Jesus, we're not sure about his future. He's got this knee problem, hasn't he? I would actually play him as a winger. And when we signed these two players, I spoke to a lot of Man City fans, and they said Zinchenko's great on the ball, but he's horrendous defending. And Jesus is not a striker; he's a winger. And I kind of feel like they were right. We should have listened to that more, because they were watching these guys for 3-4 years. And we thought maybe we could change that, and Zinchenko can be that left back that we need, and Jesus can be that number 9, and he can get 20 goals up top. I think the answers to that are no, really. And Mike, I'll ask you this question as well from Judge Mo in the chat, because for me, I think it is a question that I think would be good to get your thoughts on. Big up to Footy Judge Mo. If you've not done so already, make sure you go subscribe, man. This guy is absolute legend, putting out unbelievable content. So make sure that you're doing that. Says, do you think that Havertz can be a 20-goal player? Can he be that guy, that main focal point? I don't know that he can be. I think that he's definitely someone who I see as more next season as a squad player that can come in and cause absolute chaos. But could he be the guy? Could he be the Olivier Giroud type striker that could get us the 20 goals that we need, man? What are you saying?
Well, now you've gone and invoked a player who I have a very strong affection for, not just, more because of the way he played the position than his actual goal contributions. Although, 80% of his goals were just worldies. When he scored, they were beautiful. But anyway, enough about him. I think he could. He could be a 20. Who scored 20 goals this season? Haaland, Cole Palmer, Isak. That's it. Then a few other players, I think, got 19, 18. I think he can get close because of the way that we play. If he's playing 35 games a season at the number 9, or if he's playing 30 games a season in the 9, and then and a couple sprinkled in here at the left 8. If he starts the season hot, he can get 20 goals. They'll come from somebody else that we might not get as many goals from another spot on the pitch, but it doesn't matter where they come from as long as they come.
Mike, he got 13 this year, and he was playing in midfield for most of the season. Well, half the season.
And he was dead man walking for the first 3 months of the season as well, from a confidence standpoint. So to get 13 goals, to not be, other than the one, the penalty taker. We're talking. Haaland got, all right, he got 27 goals, but I'd venture to say at least 7 were penalties. So to get 20 goals from open play and not be the guy that takes the penalties, it's a challenge. But I think he could. I'm not ready to make a 50-pound bet on it or anything like that. But I think he could do it. I think he could do it.
Nah, listen, it's fair. I've got to say that he's proved me completely wrong, Kai Havertz. And Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit for that, in my opinion, because I feel like he was a signing that everybody was like, come on, man, what you doing? But also, it wasn't a what you're doing. It was like, well, this is on you then. And to make it work, fair play, because I don't think there was many that had the confidence that, and I'm talking Arsenal fans as well here, by the way, not just Chelsea fans laughing. Stuff.
Can I appeal to I've seen so many rushes to judgment that are so quick and I'm not trying to be preachy or holier than thou or anything like that. I really am not. But over the past 2 years, people have been so quick to rush to judgment about things being mistakes. January transfer window last season, how we didn't close the deal for Mudryk, and before Trossard had kicked the ball, people were already talking about how big of a failure it was to not get the move across the line. Have they not earned at this point? Look, no trophies yet. I get that, but have they not earned the ability to say, maybe Edu and Arteta kind of have a plan and they know what they're doing, and maybe 1 month, 10 games, 12 games for certain decisions might not be enough to really fully see the potential outcome of these moves. That's just what I would hope, because I think what's unfortunate is when you start seeing people get on the players over it. Fine to say it's a mistake to sign Havertz instead of Maddison, or to sign Havertz for the money that we paid. That's a completely understandable and defensible thing to think about. But then when you start to see it go into calling him a donkey and that stuff, I'd love people getting proved wrong, but I hate that so many people have to get proved wrong. Why do you think that is?
I think what's really interesting, I think it's a great question. I was talking about this on a stream earlier as well, about how people prove wrong and how it's like, if you prove wrong, it's like never show your face on YouTube again, please, because it's a crime.
You should be able to be proved wrong.
It's extreme, man. It's extreme. Everybody wants to be proven wrong, right? Especially if it's good for your club. But when it comes to it, I think there's definitely the extremes that were like. So for me, when we signed Aaron Ramsdale, I was a bit like, huh? What was that all about? But I wanted to at least give him the chance to wear the damn shirt before I was like, is this guy any good or not? Because let's be real, I had no idea what he was going to be like. I knew it was like at Sheffield United and Bournemouth, but I didn't really look at that form and think, wow. But then I was looking at it forming an Arsenal shirt thinking I really like this guy. And obviously it's not turned out well for him and he's probably going to end up going. But at the end of the day, he's not been a horrendously bad signing for Arsenal. I think Kai Havertz are in that bracket as well. What I wanted to do with Kai Havertz was actually look at him and think, what do I see? And I did not see a number 8. And he kept playing there. So then I'm looking at the manager thinking, what are you seeing that we're not then? Because what I was saying, and I was saying it quite a lot to Lee, was let's move this guy up top and just bring him on a bit and see what he does there. And all of a sudden it started to get a bit better. So I was like, okay, now we're starting to see what he's about. And he's definitely not a number 8. He's definitely a number 9, right? So that for me, I think is key. I don't understand why straight away there needs to be this won't work. You have to actually look at it first of all. You can have an opinion, say it might not, you might not think it'll work. Or like you said, Mike, you might think that Maddison would have been a better signing, or you might think that we need another striker and Havertz isn't that guy. That's fine. But you got to actually see these things play out and let these things play out. And I think Mikel Arteta and Edu, to be fair to them, they have got some signings wrong, 100%. I think most managers do. But they've got quite a lot right, to be honest. And I think that the ones that have become our better players were the ones that were right. Gabriel being one of them, Ødegaard being one of them, Ben White, Declan Rice. So I think, yeah, they definitely earned a little bit of trust with it for sure. Let's do it. I don't know what your thoughts are this, Tom, but this Marcus Rashford talk, man. I don't like it. I don't like it at all, right? And I know that some of the people on the panel probably will be different to this. I know Lee has a different opinion to me, but I don't like this link at all. I don't think it will happen. I will put it out there. I don't think it will. I want to get your thoughts on that. And I'll tell you why I don't like it. I look at the guy who's nearly 27 years old. I don't see potential. I think he is what he is. He's a 27-year-old or 26-year-old guy moving on 27. His mentality looks like something in the Conference League to me. He's a player that I think we were told we needed to remove out of our dressing room, i.e. Ozil, Aubameyang, Guendouzi, these type players. This is a guy that downs tools from what I can see at Manchester United. This is a guy that does not have anywhere near the elite mentality needed. And the last thing I'll say, well, actually, there's 2 more things. 1, I don't think left wing is a priority. And 2, I also don't think that this is the time to be trying to get more projects. Like, I want a player coming in who's ready now. Not, give him a season and what can Arteta do with it? I don't want any of that, right? I want a Declan Rice. Boom, he's ready to go. Hit the ground running. 375k a week. This guy is not going to want a pay cut to come to Arsenal. Yeah, from Manchester United. So there's a lot of no's from me and a lot of cons for me, Tom. So interested to know your thoughts, bro.
No, I think you're right. For a lot of it, I think that, there are a lot of drawbacks with the idea of signing Rashford. I mean, monetary wise, he's going to cost you huge sums of money, transfer fee and wages. I think he would be the most well-paid player at Arsenal if he was to arrive on his current wage packet at Manchester United, for an example. So that's what you're looking at. And that, I think, is the biggest stumbling block. The reports have come out because I think it was AFC Amden on Twitter revealed some information about conversations that had taken place between Rashford and Arteta. I can't for sure say whether or not that is indeed the case, but it wouldn't surprise me if Arteta had an interest in Rashford, because Arteta is a player that, as we know, as we've just been talking about Havertz, it believes in his own ability to revive players' careers, and to look what he's done at Havertz, see what Rashford's capable of, and what the goal records that he's had in the past have been outstanding in his best seasons at United, but he's not been that player for a long time. And in that time, that regression has also come alongside something that Havertz didn't have, which is some off the field question marks and some discipline issues as well. Havertz, may have been having a lot of questionable moments on the field at Chelsea, but was never under any kind of scrutiny from my knowledge and memory while he was at Chelsea from that regard. So there's also that to take into account. I think that this is obviously spiraled from that initial tweet from AFC Amden, but anything other than that, I don't think there's much in it. I think I put the name to somebody, like a contact of mine, and it was kind of just laughed off. So I didn't expect it. I wouldn't expect it to happen. No.
Interesting. Judges, you brought it up. You said a left-sided forward. We've got Trossard and Martinelli. Rashford is an option. Would you take him?
At the right price, yeah, I would. I don't think any club would take him on the wages that he's on. It's a ridiculous amount of wages that he's on. The reason that he's on those wages is because they wanted to keep him, otherwise it'd been a free transfer. And listen, players do leave clubs and take, pay cuts. It's as simple as that, like to get a move. And I think that would have to be the case. A lot of things I concur with what you're saying, the attitude and everything like that. But I think that's down to the way he's been managed. Ten Hag, and certainly there's got problems there. Get it out there straight away. I've seen the clips when he's not even bothering to chase back and things like that. Like, I don't know why he's gone down that route, because if he goes to Arsenal, we certainly wouldn't be allowed to get away with that. But I do see a player there, a player that I think could settle on the left-hand side, meaning Martinelli could go to the right, and they can change around you. And also, I think with Rashford, he can go into the centre-forward role as well, so it would work that way. I think that's something that they'd look at. He can score goals, as we know. He scored goals at the Emirates. I think he'd also give us something different to what all the other players have, that burst of pace behind the back four. I think that Martinelli's got that, but he doesn't seem to do that as much, maybe because he has to defend a little bit more. I get all the things around, like going to Dublin and all that. Like, I didn't see that him doing that 2-3 years ago. It just seems like that's come up now. I think there is genuine interest in it. I think that he doesn't want to be at Man United. I don't think he's been wanting to be at Man United for a little while now. I don't know what's happened there and all that, but I think that him as a player, him as a person, needs to have a different environment, a different change. Now, whether that be Arsenal or not, I don't know. But I do see that if we could get him for a good deal, I'm talking as Tom said, the money it would have to be a good transfer fee, because I don't know if he's done all these things, because it means that the transfer fee months. I don't know if they're calculated that as in football, do you know what I mean? But by him doing what he's done at Dublin, by doing what he's doing and all that, wouldn't exactly make the price higher, would it? I don't know, you know what I mean? And so I think if it was a good price and he makes it aware that he does want to leave Man United, it could happen. But I think that it probably be too high for Arsenal to go into, and because of that, maybe a little bit of a risk. But listen, I think there's a few things that you can go on the Kai Havertz thing. I remember a lot of people saying, Chelsea fans were saying, "Oh, Kai Havertz doesn't work hard, doesn't get stuck in." Well, they were the two things when he was struggling a little bit at Arsenal that he definitely did do. You know what I mean? He worked hard and put himself about. So if Rashford comes with the right mentality and the right attitude, he is a player. There's no two ways about that. Capable of scoring 20 goals, definitely, because he's done it before. And I honestly think with Rashford, he's at a crossroads of his career at this moment in time. He's not in the England side. It goes two ways for him now. If he actually could go all downhill for him from now on, because you're out of the England squad. It doesn't mean to say, oh, well, okay, as soon as the Euros is on, you're going to be back in it and all that. Like Sterling's not got himself back in there. It can go two ways for you, So maybe a move, and it could be the timing's right, that it could work and he could really get his head down and become that player. I also think that change of environment may be something that he needs as well. I'm not going to say it can be Arsenal, but if there is one team out there and one club that he probably suits, it probably is Arsenal. I can't really see him going to Chelsea, can't see him going Man City, can't see him going Liverpool. If there's only really one club,
Newcastle, Leeds, and they'd be interested.
Bournemouth.
Newcastle maybe, but again they've got no European football, and they're I think if he's going to,
Anthony Gordon has been quality for them as well. To be fair, Gordon has been quality. Anthony Gordon has been really good for them as well.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, if he's going to leave Man United, he's going to leave the team that's potentially going to win titles or going to be there and thereabouts. So, it'd be very interesting what happens with him in the summer. Very interesting.
Yeah. Mike, I don't know your thoughts on this one. We have taken a Man United player and Danny Welbeck off their hands before a few years back. Do you think it could happen again? And are you a fan of this player?
I am a fan of the player, but that doesn't mean that I would be a fan of the signing. And, although what I've said about Kai Havertz, I still stand by that as far as, the trusting in the wisdom of Edu and Arteta to bring in a player that they thought that they could get to a much, much higher level. I don't know that it suits us to continue to do that, especially at the cost and the wages. I mean, Havertz is huge wages. I was shocked by the wages. That was my biggest reservation, not the 65 million, but the fact that his wages were higher than Saka's and higher than Jesus. I mean, that part I was blown away by, because they weren't, I don't think, that high at Chelsea. We gave him a new deal, did we not, with a pay rise, Tom?
Who's that, sorry?
When Havertz came, we not only paid the 65 million, but we upped his contract.
Yeah, there was an increase in his wage. Yeah.
I mean, obviously that won't happen with Rashford. If anything, it would have to go in the other direction. But I think at this point we need to be adding players who are either, if they're going to be risks, they got to be lower risks financially, and if they're going to be risks on the pitch and in the dressing room, they certainly need to be someone who, if it doesn't work out, you have an easier time getting out from under than what a 5-year contract, taking him to age 31 with Marcus Rashford would be at 375,000 a week. That's a big mistake that you can't get out of, and that's where we were with Ozil and where we were with a lot of these players that we just finally got rid of. As for his play on the pitch, we could certainly get the player back that he has been at times. But for me, the bigger issue, and Tom, you'll know this from talking to Edu and from Arteta, they are more careful about not adding a disruptive piece than they are about adding someone who might be really, really helpful to the team, because there's a very delicate balance in that dressing room right now.
Did you see the Edu interview with Estadão, the Brazilian outlet?
Did they do a better job of quoting him than I did?
Yeah, much better, far better.
Because they're journalists, and I'm a jackass who does.
No, he talked about having like individual players have you'll like this, a 180-page dossier for like each individual player, and that's not just talking about kind of how they are as footballers. It goes way beyond the football pitch. It talks like about their mentality. It talks about their lives. It goes into a lot of person. They reach out. So, I mean, I remember speaking to Ramsdale before he signed. Just after he signed at the Amazon All or Nothing press meet, and he talked so much about how Arteta rang kind of his parents just to talk to his parents, and speak to them and get a feel for kind of how Ramsdale is from the view of. And you're only going to get kind of that diamond view of someone's child, but it's just getting that vibe. And the club do this with all the players that they look at. It goes so far beyond just what they are as footballers. They need to be sure that they're going to be the right character. And we know that Arteta inherited a hell of a lot of difficult characters, and I think that's probably influenced that decision to do it that way.
Yeah, and what Tom and I are kind of joking about is I did actually have a conversation with Edu last summer, and while I didn't quote it accurately or exactly to the word, he
because I had to check, and I was like, did he actually say that, Mike? Because you've tweeted it, and you're like, not quite.
I may or may not have had a few of the drinks that they had served, so I wasn't writing down word for word, but he said that yes, we do very much look into how these people will interact with the rest of our team, what their values are, because you can bring in one bad apple and it can destabilize the entire thing that you're building. And while David Raya is not a bad apple, I was very concerned in the light of how they talk about team chemistry, as to what they did with Aaron Ramsdale and David Raya, but not to go down that wormhole, but they seem to have survived that and come out on the better side of that. So, it's hard not to trust their decisions on personnel. If they think that Marcus Rashford is the guy who, went on a bender in Belfast, not Dublin Lee, Belfast, and is disruptive and is going to continue to be that way, then they won't bring him in. It's just as simple as that. If they bring him in, it's because they are convinced that that's not going to happen. But I'd much rather see that money and those wages go towards other areas and other players who might be a little bit, diversify that risk rather than put it all on a Marcus Rashford at this point. 2-3 years ago, I would have taken him unquestionably.
Yeah, listen, I think Rashford's had some good seasons and some bad seasons. It just wouldn't be for me, if I'm honest with you. Tom, another guy that we linked with is Bruno G. I'm a fan, man. I really like Bruno Guimaraes a lot. I think he's
on first name basis for this guy.
Yeah, I wish I was, because then I could probably try and tempt him to my club. But I don't know about this one, bruv. There's a lot of talk about his release clause being over 3 installments. There's a lot of talk about City and PSG being interested, Arsenal looking at him. I've got to say he's the number 1 on my list in terms of a midfielder personally, because I think he can play the 6 and the 8, and I think similarly to Rice, I think he wants to play more in the advanced role, but can do both. I think this would be a class signing, but do you see it happening, bro?
If you were to ask me, do I think it will happen? I don't think it will. He's of the big money deals, probably the most likely one. Again, that kind of shows you the market that our Arsenal are working in this summer. I think that what Bruno Guimaraes would bring is such good passing progression, that little bit of an edge that we sometimes say we lack. I think Havertz has brought that edge as well. Going full circle back to him. Guimaraes adds that competitivity, the will to win. He's a brilliant player the club have liked for many, many years. We're going all the way back to when he was in Brazil with Athletic Paranaense. They really liked him there. They continued to follow him when he was at Lyon, and were very keen on signing him then, but it didn't work out financially at the time where Newcastle could afford to stump up the money that Lyon were asking for, and they've really benefited from that. 35-40 million pounds, I think it was, looks an absolute bargain for a player of his caliber now. So I would absolutely take him at Arsenal without question. I think he'd bring a lot of quality to the team. Really good, kind of some of the edges that he brings. And again, it kind of links into the conversation about Rashford, and it goes back to what Mike was saying. If anyone has any concerns, about Bruno Guimaraes' mentality or his temperament or anything like that, at the end of the day, Arteta and Edu will not be signing a player that they don't think fits into the mould of this Arsenal team. So if Bruno Guimaraes was to arrive at Arsenal, it's because they have the utmost faith that he is the right fit for the squad. So you got to back it.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I really like him, Lee. I remember when we played him at St. James Park, he was a little bit of a shithousery. I remember him elbowing Jorginho in the head. He was hard work, man. But you know what? I like a handful in midfield. And I think him, Rice and Ødegaard, you've got to look at that in midfield and think, wow. I don't think Newcastle want to sell him. I think Bruno might look without European football and think, is there potential for me to move? I think Man City is very, very tempting, of course, but maybe he'll suit the project to Arsenal, and maybe he'll look at that Edu link, the Brazilian link with the Gabbies at our club, and think that he fancies a trip to North London, man. What do you reckon, Lee?
Yeah, I feel this one could happen because Newcastle won't have a say on it, will they? If the release clause is met. First of all, do I like him? No, I can't stand him. But I don't think that's a bad thing because that means he's doing something good. I think he's one of those players you're going to hate when he goes against you, but you're going to love when he comes into your team. There's loads of players like that, and I think that he definitely sits in that thing. And the only thing I'm a little bit worried about, the way he played against us when we played against Newcastle, maybe he was trying to get a book like his mate did the other week, so... he was going around smashing people and all that, But listen, I've played in games when I've been kicking 10 lumps out of the team and then gone and signed for that club. You know what I mean? So it can happen. You know what I mean? So I don't think that it's a definite no-go. I think that for me, if they do sign him or someone like that, it's important that they keep Thomas Partey as well, because I do think Arsenal have got to do better in cup competitions, things like that. And if what we need is, say we're playing, say if it is Bruno, we're just saying it is, them two are playing, and then we've got FA Cup game on the Wednesday on the weekend. You're bringing in Partey, the drop off's nothing at all. That is what we've got to get to now, So I think that we need to go. I think, if I'll be really honest, I think that a midfield player is more of a priority for us. That midfield player, whoever it'll be. There's talk about 3 or 4 different players. I think Bruno is one that I think if it's availability, some of these players, we can go we're talking about Isaacs a little while ago, he's maybe not available.
He's got a release clause. That's what changes it from ESET.
Changes it exactly that, Tommy. Changes it, like, you know. And I know there's a lot of links with City, but the way things are at City at the moment, I don't know if players will really want to go there for 1 year with what's going on and everything like that. So I think that we could actually.
Well, me and Mike are like that. We're just like, oh yeah, they will.
Of course they will, and they'll have something built into their contract. That's
I get that what you're saying, Mike. But one of the reasons that they want to come and play for Man City is not just the money and all that, is to play with Pep. And if he's not going to be there, you know, it does bring a little bit of uncertainty to what's going to go on in the future there. Like, you know, and there is a thing with Arsenal at the moment. It's a long-term thing. You know, like if you look at all the players, they're all sort of that similar age and sort of like going to grow together, and the manager as well. So I do think that has a part to play in it. I you know, Declan Rice decided to go to Arsenal over Man City. There may be something in his, I don't know. That's something you'd have to talk with him about. But like, I do think that they do think of things like that. I know that I would. You know what I mean? So. Listen, I think it could happen. I think that I think it's important that we have a midfield which is, I think, quality for a long term as well. And what I mean by that is you've got Rice at 25 now. I think Odegaard's 25. Partey's over the 30 odd thing, like, and Jorginho. You want someone in there that's going to be in there for the next 4 or 5 years at the same sort of age. Bruno's a little bit older, I think, but he's what you said earlier on, Dan. He's ready-made. He's ready-made for the Premier League. He knows what it's about, and I do think, you know, no European football next season is a little stumbling block for Newcastle. Like, you know, I don't know, Tom. You might know about this. If the release clause is met, maybe you don't have to go. I don't know if
you don't have to go if you had to. No. A player can't be forced to go to a club they don't want to go to.
So why put that release clause in there in the first place? I don't know.
It's there because what the idea is, it expires on June 30th, and the idea, Eddie Howe talked about it recently. He said that the reason they put that in there is so that if he was to leave, they've got the rest of the summer to work out a replacement.
Yeah, I get that. So it's, you know, I think if the release clause is met by Arsenal, I think, and only Arsenal. Let's forget that out there because we don't want, you know. I think he would go. I think he would.
It's interesting, man. I'm a fan of Bruno. I'd love to see him. I think the City thing is a good question in relation to Pep and his future. I'm being told that Pep and Bruno are literally obsessed with each other, man. Bruno loves Pep. Pep loves Bruno. That's coming from a City fan. I don't know how true that is, right? But when it comes to it, if Pep's not going to be there, Bruno might look at Arsenal. Bruno might look at Arsenal and think, you know what, this is more of a project. I know there's no 115 hanging over them. I know they're going to be there next season. Maybe I can help take them across the line. They've got a bright future. There's the Brazil connection. I think there's quite a lot of positives, Mike, that we could get this guy over the line, man.
Is it 100 million, the release clause?
That's the release clause.
Paid in 3 installments.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the 100 million fees are always paid in installments, though. So, I mean, that from a financial standpoint, that's not really that different of a situation. But I don't know. Tom told me that we're not signing any £100 million players this summer. So there you go.
Probably not. Things can change.
I don't know. £50, I'll bet. No,
I would do a £50 bet that we wouldn't sign anyone over 100 million this summer. Yeah.
No. So would I. I'm not taking the other side of that bet. The Bruno, I think Lee said it best. I mean, he's a player that you hate when he plays for any other team. I mean, would you sign Bruno Fernandes at this point, or Fernandes at this point if you had the opportunity? As much as we hate him, we've despised him and his dirty play, and he's always gotten away with it at Manchester United. You know, essentially,
he's been really good for the last few weeks as well. I can't even lie. Actually been really good.
I mean, if your name is Bruno, you're an ass. But you would want them playing for your team. Yeah. That's pretty much how it works. I don't think we're going to sign him, so I don't know that it's worth talking about whether we really would want to sign him or not. But yeah, I mean, if I could choose between having a 26-year-old Bruno Guimaraes or, you know, having Trossard and, you know, other players playing in the left 8 who probably shouldn't be playing in the left 8, I would take that all day long. There's got to be a better option that's not going to be £100 million and 300,000 a week, though. But again, if he suits the kind of play that we want, and we want to go big for him, and can find cheaper solutions in the other areas we need to strengthen in, then I would support the move. Because I'm toxically positive. I support anything that Arsenal does at this point.
Toxically positive. There it is. Toxic positivity. Talking about this chat room is absolutely mad tonight, man. If people get abusive, I'm just going to ban them. I can't be asked to even talk or respond. I'm just going to ban. So that's the way I see it. Let's bring this up because I'm going to do two more things before we do close. This one's going to come in from Oliver Carville. I'll let you have this one, Tom. Why can't we have the mentality?
Me?
Yeah, I know. Like a Madrid or a City, I'm sick to death of this mediocrity, Tom. Now, before you answer that, I'm going to come back with this one because I do think that there is a section of the fan base that over the past have accepted mediocrity, and I've been one who said that. I've never said that we should be like Real Madrid and City and stuff like that because everyone's different and Arsenal are different to those clubs. I understand what it's saying. I just think at the moment that's not the time to be bringing this question up. But that's just my opinion. But go on, Tom.
I think mediocrity would be finishing third in the Premier League, dropping to 8th and not sacking your manager. That's what I think mediocrity would be. And that's why I think if Manchester United don't get rid of Erik ten Hag, they're accepting that dropping from 3rd to 8th in the table, regardless of that FA Cup win, is acceptable. Which, if that was Arsenal, I don't think there is a justification for Arsenal finishing 2nd and then dropping to 8th the following season. I couldn't justify that. I certainly couldn't, because that's such a significant regression. Of course, there'd be context to look at why that happened, but I can't foresee even a significant injury issue at a club that saw you drop from 2nd to 8th in this current, climate. So Chelsea had horrific injuries and still managed to finish 6th in the table and still sack their manager. I don't necessarily agree with that decision to sack Pochettino, by the way, because I think if they want to build a project, you don't sack him after a year. Maresca, I think, is a good appointment for a club that will give a manager a lot of resources and a lot of control, but I don't think he'll get that at Chelsea, for example. But, back to Arsenal. Arsenal have only moved in one direction since Mikel Arteta has come into the club. They've only gone forwards. Every single year we've moved into a position where we are more competitive than the year before. And yes, for some fans, I assume like Oliver, to convince them he is going to have to win the Premier League or the Champions League to do that. I'd also like him to do better in the Cups. And I know me and Dan certainly agree on that. We'd like to see him do better in those Cup competitions. And this summer is certainly going to be about raising the floor of the club so that we have a better chance of competing across multiple competitions as well. But Arsenal have only, as I say, gone in one direction, being 2 points. If the difference between mediocrity, as what is defined as mediocrity, and whatever the opposite is 2 points off Manchester City, I don't know how that blur between 91 points and 94 points, which would, or not even 93 points, would have won us the league. Yeah, I don't. What was it? 89 to 91 points. It was the goals I was looking at. Scored 91 goals last season. So 89 points to 91. If we'd have got 91 points, of course, we would have won the league on goal difference. So if the difference is between mediocrity and whatever Oliver's calling for is 2 points, that's a crazy kind of
calling for ambition. That's what it's called.
Yeah, look, obviously the phrase we like on the channel to have our Arteta out bingo cards. We do like them. We get told a lot to raise our standards. That's a classic. I do love that. Got to raise them up, raise those fogging standards. Boys, you got to do it. But at the end of the day, you can't. There is not a single person that could justify getting rid of Arteta after the season that we've had. There isn't a single manager out there that you bring in instead of him. And it is going to take Arsenal to go backwards to start justifying that. To justify getting rid of him, Arsenal to go backwards. Or the alternative to that is that, for me, and I don't think there's a person on this panel that wouldn't say that they wouldn't extend his contract. But I don't think equally you could vindicate giving him the next one if he doesn't deliver a Premier League or a Champions League. Because
Tom, the other thing is, which makes me laugh, is like all these fans, right? He's got to win a trophy, right? I get it. He's got to win a trophy. He's got to win a trophy, right? If he wins the FA Cup next season and comes 8th in the league, they'll all be saying, get rid of him.
Yeah, indeed. And to be honest, so would I.
Yeah, but he's won a trophy. It's not
That would
always
be a massive regression if that happens.
It's huge. It's not justifiable to go from 2nd to 8th. It's not.
It's exactly. It's in the context of the thing, right? You know what I mean? Like we nearly won we nearly won the league this season. I know, like you win a trophy. We all want to win trophies and all that, like, you know. But we won. I come out of the last FA Cup final was against Chelsea. Not obviously the one before was, you know, in COVID. But come out of that game and fantastic day, fantastic night. You know, celebrating Aaron Ramsey's goal and doing all the songs in the pubs and all that. Like 3 days later, I'm thinking, we ain't in the Champions League this year. We're in the Europa League. You know what I mean? I wish I was in the Champions League again. I want to be challenging. You know, it's great to win it. But I remember when we won it one year, we played Lincoln in the quarterfinals. You've got to have a little bit of luck and things like that. You know, 38 games we've gone toe to toe with Man City. Not 7 games, you know, or 6 games is it in the FA Cup, you know, and some of them against lower opposition. I get it that you want to win a trophy. I get all of that, like, but we are challenging for the league, which is something we haven't done for a very, very long while. And you know what? This season, for the first time, I didn't think we was going to win the league last season, guys. I didn't. But I walked into that stadium against Aston Villa thinking, you know, we might win the league here. We might win the league. But unfortunately, it didn't happen. But I listen, when fans go that he's got to win something, and you know, yeah, I'm with you on that. I think if we won the FA Cup next season and come second, you know, all right. If we won the FA Cup and come third, what would we be saying then? And we didn't really challenge for the title. Would we all be happy, or I don't know?
I think he's got a challenge for the title. You know, but when you win a trophy, it's you're lifting silverware, aren't you? So for example, I always get this question asked to me: would you rather win an FA Cup and come 8th, or challenge for the title?
Yeah,
why can't you challenge for the title and win an FA Cup?
Is the question. But would you have swapped our season for United?
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about, would you swap this season for the who had the better season? Listen, whenever someone does that, they've had a good season, right? But for me, why is it always asked the question? Would you rather would you rather compete for the title and come second, or would you rather come 8th and win the FA Cup? Why can't you compete for the title and win the FA Cup? Why is that never an option?
That's what they want to do.
Like, do you know what I mean? That is what you want, man. Like,
you can, and that's what we're trying to do. It doesn't mean that it's automatically going to happen. But when you ask, you know, which is the better season, 8th place in an FA Cup or 2nd place and no trophies, A, there's got to be context to that. Where are you coming from to end up there? And B, the question I would ask is not who had the better season. Would you rather be a Manchester United supporter right now in the situation they're in right now, where you've just lifted a cup, you've had a horrendous season, your team's a shambles, you're past, and you're sacking your coach, or be where Arsenal are right now? You know, if you're looking backwards constantly as to what you just lifted, and that's all you're looking at, and saying, okay, well, was a better season, then fine. I can't do anything. I think
there's two different questions as well. I think there is.
I think they're more related though than people. They're more related than people think, because you know, I don't look at, you know, each season as a one season thing. I look at, I mean, in one way I do, but in general, if we've just come second, we've competed, we've not lost a single game against the traditional top 6. We were there until the very last day. There's some questionable calls. I'm not going to blame the fact that we didn't win the league on that, but and you're dealing with a Manchester City that you know, I won't even go into how they got to be the team that they are right now, because that's been gone over and gone over and gone over. I don't think you could see the lack of context that we are a team that not only has slightly improved from the, you know, from punching above our weight the season before, but we're headed towards a sustainable period at the top, similar to what Liverpool's kind of, you know, been doing over the past 6 or 7 years. And we're there or thereabouts. And this summer we build on that and go better. But, you know, I don't think it matters who had the better season. It matters where you.
I don't care about Man United. Like, you know, I mean, why is all of this sudden like Man United have come up?
Because that's the comparison that was just brought.
But I don't care. Like, you know,
I don't care about them.
When we won the FA Cup, how many years ago it was? We was going up and down the country, right? I was going up and down the country, losing 4-0 at Liverpool, losing 4-0 at Chelsea, losing 3-0 here, getting beat there, going here, going there. You know what I mean? It weren't fucking great, boys. It wasn't great. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, oh yeah, it's acceptable to come 10th or 8th or whatever and win the FA Cup. I remember when we won the FA Cup in Arteta's season. It weren't a great season. I didn't enjoy it one bit.
Pretty bad.
I enjoyed the last bit of it, but ultimately I didn't enjoy it. But now when I go Arsenal, every game, whether it be home or away, I think we've got a chance of winning games. I'm not going up to Liverpool with my tin hat on, hoping we might keep the score down to 3 or 4-0, and win an FA Cup at the end of it. Like, you know,
If Liverpool had won,
winning, I get about winning and everything like that, but like it can be brushed aside. Keep losing all that. If Arsenal win the league next season, right, which they might do, I will look back and go, that is because what's happened over the last couple of years.
Yep.
Right. And if that means not winning an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup for 2 years or 3 years or whatever, but I get to that main goal of winning the of the Premier League, I'm going to take that. And that is what we are going for. And I do think that we're in a better position than Man United. And if Man United next season go on and win the league, right, I will turn around and go, do you know what? You've got to give them their credit. They've won the FA Cup, and it's got them parallel to whatever. Personally, I don't think it will, guys. You know what I mean? Like,
they'd love to be in our position, Lee. Man United fans would trade Man United's position with us in seconds. They would,
because I would have traded it 4 or 5 years ago, Tom, because I knew exactly what we was going through.
Exactly.
If Liverpool won the FA Cup this year instead of United, finished third, 7 points behind second, won the FA Cup, you could say that they would have had a better season than us because they competed for the title until the last month and won the FA Cup. That I could buy into, but you can't be you can't lose 4-0 to who was it that they lost to? Burnley, Brentford, like in the
Palace. Was it
Palace?
Palace?
Yeah, 4-0 to Palace. You can't lose the games that they lost over the course of the season as embarrassingly as they lost them, and claim that you had a good season in any way, shape, or form just because you happen to play well in 6 games, or play well enough in 6 games to get you to Wembley and win a trophy.
Yeah, I think Jonathan in the chat box rated that point as well. Jonathan said fans hounded out Wenger despite winning those FA Cups. The amount of times that we said when Wenger won the FA Cup, like, don't sign that new deal. Go out on that high because we need to go forwards. You know,
in 2014, we needed a trophy. It didn't matter whether we finished 16th in the league and won the FA Cup in that situation.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the one that we won, you know, to end the drought. I'm talking about
I know
against Chelsea. He should have gone at those points because we needed to go forwards, because an FA Cup wasn't enough. And an FA Cup this season for Arsenal necessarily wouldn't have been enough either, because we need to go and win that league. I agree with you 100%. An FA Cup is great. I don't want to denigrate it. The League Cup is something different. I find the League Cup in itself has been denigrated just through the context of that competition, for the sponsorships, for the reward of winning it, being in the Conference League. You know, the fact it's a double leg semi-final, all this rubbish that you know, teams basically turn something of a blind eye. City can win it and have won it consistently, not because they wildly care about it, because they've got the resources to be able to go for it and all the other competitions compared to other clubs around, you know. So I look at Arsenal and I think, you know, if not winning the League Cup means that we have a far, far better opportunity to go for our league title, you know, not qualifying for the Champions League, I'm talking about finishing top 4, I'm talking about going for the title, going for the Champions League, then I am absolutely rather to gun for those things. And I'm hoping that this summer puts us in a position where we don't necessarily have to forego a cup competition to be able to be in a position to challenge on all fronts. Because we should now be, you know, 5 years into this project, we should now be in a position where after this summer, the squad is not only in a place where it's competing for a title as it has done in the last 2 seasons, but it's also in a position where it's fighting for every single tournament that's possible. We should be in that position now.
No more excuses for not doing that. We've spent the money. We've brought in the players. We've gotten rid of the players. And at this point in time, we should absolutely be competing on all fronts. And I don't buy the fact that we didn't go for the FA Cup and that we're not able or wanting to compete on all fronts, as I'm seeing in the chat. We were, I think, more focused on the league this year.
Listen, our home form cost us in the FA Cup. like it's cost us in the league. If we'd be really brutally honest about it, we should have beaten Liverpool that day. Missed chances on the day. You know what I mean? It was just that. But I agree. Dan's right. You know what I mean? There shouldn't be. All right, we just go for the league and that's it. We've got to aim for everything, and that's why I think this transfer window is important, because it's got to be so that if we're going to challenge for the league and we're going to try and win cups as well. But at the end of the day, let me tell you now, when people say to me, raise your standards because you want trophy, raise your standards.
What do you have to do with whether we win a trophy or not?
It doesn't necessarily mean the best team wins the cup. Because if the best team wins the cup, Manchester City would have won it. The fact is, the matter is, you need a little bit of luck in those competitions. You need a little bit of everything to go your way. At the end of it, you can raise your standards. Raise your standards in the league, and that takes care of it. And hopefully, you can get a cup along the way as well. But when people say raise your standards, what for the FA Cup? You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, did Manchester City were actually beaten by a team that finished 8th in the league. 8th in the league, you know what I mean? It's just one of those, you know what I mean?
Not to mention Coventry came this close.
And that's really away from winning that, weren't they? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know,
I have an announcement. If you're in a chat of a podcast, and I'm sorry, Dan, I don't mean to insult your loyal listeners, but if you're in the chat of a podcast and you feel that your personal standards for Arsenal Football Club mean anything, you need to have a look in the mirror. Like, seriously, people aren't going to like that comment, but whether you have the highest of standards or just don't care at all, doesn't matter. The same thing's going to happen. So, you know, don't waste so much energy. Maybe it's just because I'm 51 years old and you know, the second oldest person in this panel. Doesn't matter. Just watch it, enjoy it, root for it, want success. But you know what? You're no better than anybody else because you're angry that we didn't win a trophy this year. End up.
So, man, it's all opinions. We've all got different ones.
Also, please donate to Gooners versus Cancer.
Everybody's got different, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's got different opinions. You know what I mean? And like,
mate, we all want to get to
my standards are very, 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 very simple. Like, you know, when people say raise your standards, I want Arsenal to win the league. That's what I want. I want every season. I want Arsenal to win the league, right? But 20 teams in the Premier League, only one wins it. So 9 times out of 10, you're going to be disappointed. But at the end of it, that's what I want. I loved Arsene Wenger, right? But at the end of the day, he couldn't deliver challenging for the title no more. That, for me, not good enough. Not good enough. He won FA Cups, not good enough. Because at the end of it, I want us to be winning the league. It's not an easy job to do, guys. It's not. If it was easy, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, everybody would be doing it.
You'd have different teams doing it every year, not just one.
Say again?
You'd have different teams winning over the course of years, not just one 6 year, basically 7 years out of 9. And my standards are, I want the team to put their best effort forward. I want to not have a joke out there. I want the players to come up and clap for me when I go to an away game and when I go to a home game, and for everyone else that goes to those games. And I want the team to have some pride and not lose games 6-0 and 4-0. I don't want them to lose games at all. But, you know, and that's the difference in this club versus the one from 3, 4, 6
Mike,
years ago.
You know where my standards have been raised, right? I'll tell you where my standards have been raised. And listen, I'm not a lover of Mikel Arteta. Dan knows that, but I respect what he's done. It was a time that I wanted him out, right? At the end of the day, my like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I was going to grounds not knowing whether we was going to win, lose or draw. This time now, I feel that every time ground I go in, whether it be Manchester City, whether it be Liverpool, Tottenham, I feel that we've got a chance of winning a game of football. Now, there were times when I couldn't stand going to the North London derby because I knew we was going to get beat, which you look back at the records, it did happen. Chelsea, getting stuffed every time that we went there. I go there now, I think, is it 5 times unbeaten in how many years? And all of a sudden, Chelsea's become my favourite ground. Manchester United, all right, we haven't done great yet, but we're winning it. We won there this season. Do you know, I spoke to someone the other day. I don't know how old he was. He said, I've never seen us win at Old Trafford. I went, what?
2006.
He said, I've never seen us win at Old Trafford. I've been coming here. I said, what do you mean never seen it? He said, yeah. I've seen us winning the FA Cup, never in the league. You know what I mean? Come on. All of a sudden now we've got, you know what I mean? We go to, do you know, we went to Old Trafford this week. Dan, I tell you, I'd be disappointed if we don't beat them by 3. That's the standard we've set. We ain't won there for so long, but that's the standards we're setting now. When
Who set those standards, Lee? Who set those standards? Who has set those standards?
Well, the team.
Yeah, the team, the manager. They're the ones that have set these standards. We go into next season, you know, and we went into this season disappointed we didn't win the league. You know, that's the standard we are now. Yeah, if you'd have said that that's where we were at when we appointed Arteta, the majority, myself included, when that appointment was made back in 2019, never expected Arsenal to get here under him. Matter of fact, no one expected Arsenal to have been put back in the bracket of Manchester City, you know, back in the Champions League and competing, you know, going to the quarterfinal for the first time in 14 years with expectations, of course, for next season to us to go to the semis and beyond. You know, Arsenal are in a position where they can go and challenge for the league next season and have a bloody great chance of winning it. Can go into the Champions League next season as potentially one of the favourites. We were ranked at one point this season, according to the bookies, ahead of Real Madrid for the Champions League. You know, that's how highly appreciated this Arsenal team is in the wider context of the sport. That's what Arteta has done to it. That's what the recruitment has done to this team, where the expectations are that high. And look, for some, I respect people's opinion to be that if they need the trophy now to be the measure of that, and the fact that we haven't got that in the last since 2020 when he won that FA Cup, that's not enough. That's fine. You know, that you're entitled to that opinion. I respect that view. For me, and from where I'm at a situation where I think Arsenal are in the best position possible to be competing and beating Manchester City to a title next season. I don't see any other manager coming in and doing that. I don't think anyone could name me a coach that could come in next season and win, that would be more likely to win the league next season than Mikel Arteta would in charge of Arsenal next season. I don't think there is a manager on the planet other than Pep Guardiola himself that could do it better than Mikel Arteta could do it next season. You know, so I just think that we are in the best position possible for what's available out there. And I'm in a really happy place. And as Lee said, I go into every game with the expectation to win. I went to the Etihad, you know, with the expectation that we can win this, you know, and I'm not scared of any single team. And that's why I was horrifically disappointed when Bayern Munich knocked us out. That's why I was gutted when Aston Villa beat us at our home ground. You know, and that's the standards we have now, is there is not a single game as an Arsenal fan that we don't go to with the expectation to win, because that's the standards now. And Arteta's the guy that's taken us there.
Well, look, let's. I want to close because we've been going for a while, and it's been really good chat. To be fair, great debate, brilliant from everyone in the chat that is keeping respectful, that is commenting. I want to bring up a comment that came up a while ago, and just close on this statement because we're talking about managers. To be fair, judges, Tom, the chat. What do you think of Maresca's Chelsea signing and the Ten Hag situation? Is he done? Now, the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I said on a channel, I can't remember what channel it was now. It seems like I'm always on loads of channels at the moment. But I was talking about what
Michael Richards,
the standard. Yeah, I was talking about where the talent has gone in terms of the talent point players and the talent point managers, and I think it's something no one seems to want to talk about because I brought up players. I brought up England players of old. The number 9 position is just gone in Europe. Everybody wants a number 9, but no one really knows what number 9 they want because they're not actually fantastic. But actually, the manager pool is pretty rubbish as well. When you look at Liverpool and Fernando Torres is on the list as one of the options, there's a problem in the manager pool. When Cesc Fabregas is an option for Chelsea, there's a problem, right? Where are the managers at the moment? Where have they gone? The only ones with any sort of CV that's respectful that are available right now is Thomas Tuchel, Antonio Conte and Jose Mourinho. Everybody says they don't want those 3 anywhere near their club for some reason, right? So they obviously want a different type of manager that's a journey, process, project type manager. So everybody looks at a De Zerbi or a McKenna is now the name. Maresca's now gone to Chelsea. I find that rather embarrassing, if I'm honest, that Chelsea and Manchester United have sacked their managers or are looking to sack their managers. And their first 2 options are the 2 that have just come up from the Championship. Like, what is happening here? Where is all the managers
the
gone?
next Mikel Arteta? That's what's happening.
Well,
here.
do you know what, Mike? Right? What makes me laugh with this? I've not been Mikel Arteta's biggest fan. I've had concerns, and I still have concerns that we can get across the line, right? But when I look at it, Chelsea fans were absolutely rinsing Arsenal fans for a project, a process. It's all win now with us. Under Roman, we get what we want. And now Arsenal haven't got world-class players. All your fans are hyping them up. Now I'm listening to the Chelsea fans, and they're basically like Arsenal fans 4 years ago. It's actually rather embarrassing. Like, they want a project, they want a process, they want a long-term manager, they want someone to follow them on their journey. They've got world-class players like Nkunku today, I heard was world-class. I've heard that their midfield of Enzo and Caicedo and Lavia is world-class. And I'm thinking, so you 3 years ago were rinsing Arsenal fans for doing that. And now you're doing it yourself. What is happening to that football club, by the way? It's an absolute mess. So for me, if Carlo Ancelotti is available, I'm looking at a manager like that. If De Zerbi's available, I'm keeping Arteta, right? That's where I'm at. That's why I look at a manager and I think, who can do better than Mikel Arteta? Well, your CV, Carlo Ancelotti says, you're one of the best ever. So you clearly can. You, De Zerbi, let's be real, ain't really done anything amazing, in my opinion. But everyone seems to want him. I don't know why everyone wants De Zerbi, by the way. I don't look at De Zerbi and think he's anywhere near what people are saying, how great he is, right? My point is, if we were to get rid of Mikel Arteta, like some people have suggested that we need to do, I look at the manager market and I think, wow, there's a problem there. Like, where are the managers? Like, this is a serious question now. It's not just about where is the talent on the pitch. Where's the talent out off the pitch as well? Because the managers are dried up. I look at it and I think, if Kieran McKenna and Maresca are the two options at Chelsea and Man United, something has gone wrong, boys. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Plymouth.
Yeah, not very good Plymouth. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, Dan. I've got to shoot off in a second, by the way, so I'll just finish.
Yeah, I know. I've got to wrap up. Sorry,
it's all right. Just like I see, like, you know, suggestions out. I think some people in the chat box were saying Zidane, obviously, he's not been in management for a very long time. Was, you know, won Champions League and titles with Real Madrid. You know, I mean, that in itself, it's Real Madrid at the end of the day, and you know, he was already ingrained in that club's, you know, youth academy, knew the club inside and out. Ancelotti, of course, brilliant manager. If there was somebody to replace Arteta with, and Ancelotti wanted to go in management for another fair few years, of course, I'd love Ancelotti. I think it'd be great management decision to bring him in, but that's not going to happen. The other one is Inzaghi gets brought on a lot. Inzaghi is in charge of an Italian side that's got a squad that's far better than any of the other Italian sides. Frankly, if he didn't win the league in Serie A this season, it would be a huge underachievement, you know. Yet the argument is that he'd come to Arsenal and then somehow overhaul a City side that have had, you know, hundreds of millions more pounds of investment into their squad compared to us. So I don't really see that one working. I think that the manager market is barren right now, and I think you're right to bring up Chelsea as a great example. I think that's potentially why Man United are so torn with the Ten Hag situation, is because they just don't know who on earth they bring in. Tuchel is potentially the best option they could bring in. You know, thinking about a catastrophic failure at Bayern Munich, not winning a single trophy with that side is something that side doesn't do. You know, that again, it'd be like Inzaghi not winning a league with Inter Milan this season. So I think that ultimately there will be clubs like Man United that perhaps stick with Ten Hag because they just look at the market for managers and think there's not anyone there good enough to replace them with. I still think, I'm looking at that and thinking you can't justify going from 3rd to 8th. I don't care if you've won an FA Cup. You know, raise your standards, Man United. You know, you need to bring someone else in. So, yeah, for me, it's a really difficult market in that sense.
Yeah, just quickly before we wrap up, Lee, Mike, anything to add on that?
No, I think, listen, the managerial thing, listen, if you know, when you look at other clubs, like if they want to go down that route, you're going to have two years of hell. You know what I mean? Because like for 2 years under Mikel, it weren't very nice. Weren't very nice. And I you know, I think with Mikel, you know, I'm very, 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 very fortunate to get the Arsenal job with no experience. You know, I have to say that, and we've had to go through, you know, him making mistakes to get to where we've gone now. He's still making mistakes, if you want my honest opinion. Made a mistake at the Villa game. Probably cost us the league, that mistake, if I'll be honest. But, you know, other teams can do what they like. You know, the manager situation, listen, you can have the best managers in the world. If you ain't got the players, you've still got to have the players. You've still got to have the players. You know what I mean? I know going about Ancelotti, great manager as he is, and doing fantastic. Why didn't he do it at Everton? Why didn't he do it? The reason is because he didn't have the players at Everton. You've got to have players. You've still got to be a very, very good manager. Don't get me wrong, to manage and everything there. But at the end of it, you need the top players. And why are Arsenal better now than what they were 2 years ago? Because they've got better players at centre halves. They've got better players in midfield, and God, they've got better strikers. You know what I mean? And that is the facts. It is the facts. You've got to manage it properly. I get that. But, you know, also managers pass their sell-by dates. As much as we don't like it, Arsene Wenger was a brilliant, brilliant manager, guys. But he passed his sell-by date. Probably like Jose Mourinho, magnificent manager in his time. Horrible bastard. But at the end of it now, past his sell-by date. It happens. You know, and I will say with Ancelotti, he keeps himself going and fantastically well. And I've got nothing but admiration for him. Pep, unbelievable what he's done. But he's still got to have the players. Do you think Pep would win the league with Everton? Be honest. Do you think he would? With those players? I don't think.
And there's something else you need. I mean, managers are important, but like you've just said, managers in the wrong situation it isn't going to help. I mean, Ancelotti has surrounded himself by both amazing players, the best possible, and the support and a coherent strategy from ownership. That's the third thing that you didn't even mention, Lee, is coherent strategy. You bring an incredible manager into Manchester United under the way they've been run, and maybe it'll change under Ineos or whoever's taking over, Ratcliffe. Maybe that'll change, but if it doesn't matter who you bring in. Ten Hag might have been very successful somewhere else. It doesn't matter who you bring in. They could be the best manager in the world. Unai Emery is a very, very good football manager, and I'm opening up a can of worms here, but he's a very, very good manager at football. But if he's not in the right environment, doesn't get support, which he frankly probably didn't at Arsenal, and he doesn't have the players, you're not going to see success. He's now in a position where he's getting those things. So, it isn't just as simple as going out and getting experience and a guy who's won 15 million times, as Tottenham has shown over and over and over again.
There we go. Listen, we're going to wrap up there, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to all three of you and everybody in the chat. Thank you all so much for your new memberships, your donations, your super chats, your comments, your interaction. Thanks to those of you that were keeping it respectful, and those that weren't, well, you won't know because you're no longer in the chat. Big up to Tom Canton. Make sure you go follow Tom, please, at the Gooner Talk TV. You'll see him every single morning, updating you on all the talk in relation to Arsenal news. So make sure that you do that. Tom, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, mate.
Likewise, mate. And it's been a pleasure taking your money. So,
yeah, I bet it has, man. Of course, to a good cause, you know.
To a good cause, of course.
No, I had to get that in.
Yeah.
It's been too long since it was mentioned. I had to bring it up.
That was the reason we did this show. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, indeed.
Big up. And of course, that money is going over to Gooners versus Cancer. Make sure you go check that out, people. GoonersVersusCancer.com. It's on the banner scroll below. Make sure you go follow the Gooners pod, because, of course, you're going to hear from Mike and all of his guys over at all Arsenal content. You'll hear more on Gooners v Cancer as well. Mike, pleasure having you on, bro. You're always welcome.
Always great to see you guys. Fantastic spending time with you and your family. I loved the last day of the season, our father-son pictures with me and my boy, you and your dad, our friend Matt Judge and his dad. Just that's what football's about. And I enjoy it all the time. And Lee and Tom, hope to see you a little bit more the next time I'm over. But
yeah, I've missed you this time, like that, man. So
great to spend time with all you guys. And
when you over next?
It'll probably be early September. I'll be here for the summer, but I'll be back over in early September. Got a wedding to go to. And,
you out over in LA for the tour?
Oh yeah. I'll see you over the summer, buddy.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant.
And Tom, you coming over for the summer?
Sadly not. No. 1 year. I'll get there 1 year. I'll bring pots.
Yeah, likewise with me. I'm not going to be there, but likewise, I'd like to get over there one time for sure, man. So anyway, big up, Mike. And listen, Lee, judges, always a pleasure, man. Feels weird you have been coming on this channel, not with you guys, but always a pleasure, man, to have you over here, mate. And good to chat.
I enjoyed that. It's a great debate. I love it. I love it when it's like that. I love it.
Wait, it was a huge. It was what was it called? A huge debate.
It's a huge debate. It
Huge
wasn't
debate.
a funny one.
I love it when
Emoji, capital letters,
It's
emoji.
great to have a people got.
I felt like we weren't having a huge enough debate until the last 20 minutes, so we had to drive it into huge debate territory.
Listen, people, do me a favor. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. We're getting so close to 20K. We're at 19 or over 19 now. So please make sure that we can get that up as close to 20 as possible and as quickly as possible. Make sure you're following all these guys. And do me a favor. Keep supporting the Arsenal. Take it easy. And we'll see you next time. Laters.